In the 90s, Playmates Toys made the deepest line of Star Trek action figures in history. My name's Keith, and I'm a collector working towards owning all 284. I've been a Trek fan for almost 35 years, and most people are sick of me talking about it. But somehow I've convinced my old friend Mike to review them with me on Look at My Star Trek Toys! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Look at My Star Trek Toys. I know you're already like, hey, where's Mike? Who are you showing your toys to? Well, you know what? Mike had a meeting, so I'm here solo today, but it couldn't wait. This news could not wait because we have some first images of the 2022 Playmates figures in the wild, in real life, in their final packaging. So there's a lot to talk about. It's very exciting, and I wanted to just get this out to you and show it to you if you haven't already found it on Facebook. Because this is the first time we have seen, Playmates when they announced their 2022 line of the action figures coming out. We did episodes on that before. You can see in our feed below to see our initial reactions to Playmates press releases, and we got some information from them directly. You can also find that there. But we had not seen these final versions of the figures in their packaging, not directly from Playmates, but actually in the wild. So a new friend of the show, Steve Adams, found these and posted pictures of them. And what he said is that he found them at the MCM Comic Con in London, just on the 29th. And so you can see some of the figures in their case. So they're coming out in August in retail, and I think you can pre-order them now. But with no further ado, let's take a look at what we can see here from these figures. So here we are. So these are the pictures that he took at the Comic-Con in London, and you can see the actual figures in their final packaging there, which is very interesting. We see Picard and Riker here, and I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit, try to get as much information from these pictures as we can. First off, you're going to recognize immediately the classic packaging from the 90s, the Star Trek The Next Generation basic logo and the initial sort of art that they did on Series 1 back in the 90s. And so you can see a couple of things from the detail here. First off, we saw the figures had different sort of articulations, and the torso and legs obviously very different from the original 90s Playmates figures. We talked about it a little bit before, but obviously you have more of a G.I. Joe articulation at the hip and legs, and so that's the first thing that's very obvious from the start. Playmates really focused on having more articulation because they really wanted to have these figures be played with more than just displayed like we all do see here. So it's sort of hard to tell, but it looks from this that the paint is a little bit more matte than the 90s figures. And you can see from the communicator there, it looks like it's a little rounder than the actual communicator. So that's an interesting little detail that I'm not entirely sure how I feel about. But other than that, I think it's a good sculpt. Looks cool. I'm excited to get my hands on it. So Playmates, drop us some figures. We'll do a full review on them. You can also see here some of the very classic style choking hazards that Riker has. We have his, you've got the phaser with the old 90s style phaser beam sticking out of it. They're very simple, like the choking hazards from the 90s. They're not painted. They're just a flat plastic. Although I will say that one of the things I've talked on the show previously is I much prefer them, if they're not going to be painted, if they're not going to be realistic to the coloring scheme, at least make them silver and not purple or orange or something that sort of sticks out and looks weird. So they did. They made them silver this time, which is great. However, you can see the stand here. It's just a simple silver Star Trek insignia, but it's not the Delta from The Next Generation. It's sort of a more generic stand there. So that part I'm not so sure about. If we look at Picard here, I actually like the sculpt better on Picard than I do Riker, at least as it is here, seen through the packaging. And we can see his little laptop there is black this time, so that's interesting. But anyway, it's certainly very exciting and cool to see them in the packaging. There's obviously a lot of effort put in to have nods back to the original series in the 90s. Original series of Star Trek figures from Playmates, not the Star Trek, the original series. But it's certainly, it's encouraging. It's interesting. So let's take a look at what we have here. We have our Michael Burnham. And that obviously has a different type of packaging. That there's no tie back to the 90s because it's not a series from the 90s. So I don't mind the packaging looking more contemporary. That's fine. That's cool. We're noticing here the other thing. There's no cards, because remember back we had these Skybox cards, and sometimes they were the Pogs when that was a thing. So there are no collector's cards in these. So that's one change from the 90s styles. But you can see here, similar. It's the same delta for the stand. Again, you have completely different G.I. Joe style hip articulation. But the sculpt and the scale still does feel in keeping with the 90s line. Couple different colors to the choking hazards. Again, I don't mind that it's black, white, and gray, because those are all realistic colors for the choking hazards to be. So I think that's fine. That's cool. They're not green or purple or whatever. So I think it's a good figure. I'm excited to see it up against the 90s styles, and also in my hands and on the shelf. But it's really exciting to now see the packaging be physical. It's real. It's not spec. It's the real thing. So we can also see here's our Saru. Fewer choking hazards, or smaller choking hazards. Obviously it's a bigger figure because Saru is as tall as he is. Really like the pop of gold. I know they changed it almost immediately, but I really liked the season 1 and 2 Discovery uniforms. I thought they were very classy looking. And I like the blue. I guess I just like the color blue. But the packaging here, a lot of it's contemporary because it's Discovery, but I like that they have the the model numbers and that kind of stuff, which of course those of us collectors of the original series, we all have our spreadsheets and we know it's figure 6142 or whatever, and it's nice to have that represented there. I'd love to see the backs of the packaging, but we're not there yet. Yeah, cool. I like the nod there. Here is a one of the ships. So here is the original series Enterprise. Very similar box to the original ones with the Try-Me, because it's got the lights and sounds. All of the original ships came with that, which is cool. Obviously, this box design is not a throwback to the 90s box design. It's more the contemporary one, which is fine. I know some people are big into the packaging and they keep all their figures in packaging. Obviously, if you've been watching the show, you know that I don't. I want them on my shelf. So that's less of a deal to me. I think it looks great. I love the black and blue sort of color design, but I could also understand if you want to be the classic package design that you were used to. But it looks like it's going to be a cool ship. Also, it clearly comes, as you can see there, with a display stand, which is great because the first couple of ships that they put out in the 90s did not have stands, which leads me to using JD's shot glass option, and then JD makes fun of me for my fancy shot glasses, but whatever, it just happens. So that's cool. So we get another shot here of Riker and Picard. So that is what Steve Adams was able to find at the Comic Con. Our first sighting, or at least the first sighting that I'm aware of the actual figures in the wild. Very, very exciting. So that is what we know so far. That is what we've heard. We may reach out to Playmates again to try and get some more questions answered now based on this. So if you have any questions that you would like us to send to Playmates, a lot of the questions that we get are they going to release this figure or this ship or whatever? And I don't think we're going to get an answer on that. Playmates is going to tell us what they're going to produce when they tell us. They're not going to tell us that ahead of time, although I'm certainly anxious to get answers to a lot of these questions. Yeah, if there's anything else about the packaging or the shipping or where it's going to be sold or the price, we know all those answers. I'll link to our video answering a lot of those questions below here. I don't know. How do you feel? I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to get my hands on it. Yes, I mean, do I wish they were exactly the same style as the 90s ones? Yeah, of course. That said, it's still Varner Studios producing them. I think the sculpts look good. The packaging looks cool. I think it is pretty reasonable. I'm pretty excited about it. So anyway, more to come as the summer progresses. We're going to get more information and hopefully get our hands on these, and we will do a full review. Don't worry. If you're watching this for the first time, you've never seen our channel, check down below. We've got a playlist here. We have reviewed now the majority of the Playmates 4.5-inch figure line, and we'll be finishing that up as I finish my collection. So tons and tons of stuff. We also have lots of customs. We have custom figures. We have custom displays. All sorts of incredibly talented people have reached out. So if you're just joining, welcome. And I apologize. Mike's not here. Mike's definitely more fun than just me, but that's what you got today. So thank you very much for watching. We will give you more information as we can. Till then, this has been... There we go. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM.